Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Reddit thread titled, How Did You Waste Your 20s? If you enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's begin. User Extreme Today 984 said, no ambition, lack of foresight, no goals. I spent so much time stressing out about my future that I never actually lived in the present. User Frederick der Grossen responded, for me, it was too much ambition early on in life, and then by the time my 20s came around, I became very disillusioned. I felt like life was mundane and nothing brought joy to me anymore, so I hardly did anything. I literally wasted a bunch of time doing nothing. Under this comment, another user named Weird John asked, did you at least accomplish anything? I had no ambition and I've definitely suffered professionally because of it. Sure, I've gone out and done a lot of cool things, seen interesting places, and generally have had a relaxed attitude about life. But now I'm still struggling financially, even being a husband and dad. Another user named Kamogia said the following, having spent my 20s in a certain way and now being in my early 30s, here's what I'm trying to do now and would recommend. Cultivate yourself, be really honest with yourself, and do things that make you feel satisfied and proud, not necessarily happy, which is often amorphous and a moving target. We work on things, we work on relationships, but we forget that we have to actively work on ourselves and evaluate and seek out our true wants and needs. At least I would say I did. Now, I'm trying to be the authentic director of my own life and drive it like I stole it, you know? That sounds easy, fun, and awesome, but in reality, in my experience, it's slow every day and sometimes hard work. But I've come to find that this is literally what life is, and if you're not doing it, life is just living you instead. User Kid Icarus responded with this under Kamogia's comment. At that period of your life, assuming you are not married or do not have kids yet, you have as much freedom as you'll ever have, so you can take risks and make plans that you may not get to later in life. Save up for a trip to a cool country you've always wanted to visit. Go become a wildland firefighter or take a temporary job at a national park working on a trail crew. Go drive a van across the country. Do anything but get sucked into the monotony of merely surviving the work week and waiting for things to get better. If money makes it hard to accomplish these things, you can start even smaller. For example, spend your weekends volunteering to build trails in your community and meet cool, like-minded people. Then user Yang the Young said, I had the same issue once I started university overseas. It felt like nothing mattered anymore since I only got there because my parents seemed to be happy about it. Eventually, emptiness crept in. I'm not sure if this would work for everyone, but for me, it's about trying new things and meeting new people at the same time. I eventually found something I like to do and stuck with it. Bouldering for me. When you find someone who clicks with you and you remain sincere while spending time together, trust me, you will realize that the world is so much more than just you. If you can't appreciate yourself, someone else will and you will be fine. That's how I started picking myself up about 6 years later. User Zever said, depression is a I have vague memories of my childhood. I have good memories of the past couple of years. I don't remember a thing from the years between 18 to 25. I just sat at home, played some games, ate, slept, and just existed without anything significant happening at all. Edit. Since a lot of you are asking how I came out of it, I'd like to shamelessly copy and paste a comment I wrote earlier. So here's my advice. Pick something you want to do and go do it. You're probably already at one of your lowest points in your life. It's not like it'll get much worse. Want to learn the piano? Why not? At least it'll be a good distraction for a while. Want to do sports? Sure. At worst, your physical condition will improve. Want to travel? Grab a backpack and go somewhere. Want to punch a shark in the face? Where's the nearest ocean? Who knows, maybe by the end of your little bucket list, you'll learn to love life again. Or maybe not, but at least you can tell people you've punched a shark, which is kind of cool, not gonna lie. For me personally, I always wanted to learn cooking. I taught myself how to cook, then did some volunteer work cooking for elderly people. Opportunities came and stuff happened, and right now I'm working full-time as a chef, about to start school again to get my diplomas, and I'm doing great. You never know what might happen along the way, but nothing will start if you don't do something, no matter how small it might be. Edit 2, it has come to my attention that punching sharks is a big no-no, and I profusely apologize. Dolphins, barracudas, and triggerfish are apparently okay, so punch away. Then user Izzo34 said, I was heavily abused growing up. At 17, my mom punched me so hard in the face I had to get up off the floor. I walked out of the house then and didn't go back. A week after I turned 18, I had my first kid. 2 months later, he died of SIDS. I quit caring about life and went hard in substances the first half of my 20s. Second half I spent trying to get my life together and then got divorced. 30s were okay, working on my 40s now and will be 42 later this year. Edit. Am currently at work and unable to respond to everyone. Just wanted to say thank you for all the kind words and other people sharing their story. You are all very awesome and kind, and I appreciate all of you. User Ghoul's Folly said, yeah, depression is probably the biggest waste for most of us. Many are young enough to have a bunch of problems and old enough to have been shit on when mentioning mental health and therapy during developmental years. User Freelance Frankfurter said, I was the same way. Dropped out of community college after 2 semesters. Had very few friends and worked crappy minimum wage jobs while still living with my mom for much of that time. I hate thinking of my early 20s because I think of all the time I wasted. Even if I made friends, dated, or got laid and partied, it would still be something in my opinion, but I did none of that. That time is all just a blur with nothing to show for it and nothing learned. I'm actually about to move back in with my mom after living on my own for years, but I'm in a slightly better place. I went back to school to get my degree and am about to graduate. The only thing now is the job hunt has made me a bit pessimistic. User A Pale Recluse said, had depression my whole life. 25 now, feel f***ing stupid for wasting my life like this, but it's hard to climb out of. Then user Sierra 117 responded with the following under that comment. You're still super young. Unless you planned on being an Olympian, there is nothing stopping you from achieving your dreams. I'm 22 and have depression. I'm a budding alcoholic and addicted to weed, vaping, and until recently, kratom. But that doesn't have to be me, and it doesn't have to be you. Straighten yourself up and get back on that horse. I'm sure as hell trying. User Sapphire Echo said, being too shy. To anyone younger reading this, take risks. Ask that person out. Go to that local event you've been eyeing. Strike up a conversation with a cool looking stranger. Get up on stage at a karaoke night. Volunteer. Join a club. Life is not a movie, and there is no magical special person that will notice you and come pull you into the light. You have to do that yourself. A user asked, but what if I mess up, under this comment. In response to this, user Sar Dixon said the following. This is what is currently holding me back, and while I haven't a full answer, I have a couple of tips. For trying new things, start low-key. Wade in the shallow end and see how it feels. Like when joining a club you borrow or buy the rookie stuff and try it out for a few sessions. Or let's say you want to travel. Explore your local area or the next town over. I find that once I've done the basics, so to speak, a few times, then I become more comfortable with going further because I have that groundwork covered. And to mess ups, they are scary, undeniably so, but there are 2 ways to deal with them. Have plans of avoidance in place. If I'm going or doing something new, I research the shit out of it beforehand, and spinning propaganda about your mistakes. I don't mean lie or gaslight or things like that. But if you fall over or mess up, take accountability if it's serious and laugh at yourself if it's not. Then Sapphire Echo said, you will sometimes because that is life. But unless we're talking about bungee jumping with a shit cord or something, you're not gonna die. You have to be willing to risk some discomfort and embarrassment to get the rewards of life. That's exactly why it's called a risk. It's not guaranteed. You can choose to be safe, but you're choosing to lose out on life. Next time you find yourself thinking something like, it's probably not gonna work, challenge that helplessness and say to yourself, I am choosing to miss out on life right now. We've been taught our whole lives that failure is bad, but that's wrong. Failure is learning. And it's those learning experiences that are integral to a meaningful life. It is not something to be ashamed of. It is natural to fail. When a baby falls trying to take its first steps, are we ashamed of the baby? No. We cheer them on because they're one step closer to walking. You can be afraid to fail. You can be sad when you fail. But if you choose to let those feelings limit you, never forget that's your fault. Not life's, not the world's, not other people's. You have the power. It's your responsibility to use it. User Spoon Plays Games said by getting fat and then getting so depressed by that I effectively cut myself out of everyone's lives because I was too embarrassed to be seen by old flames, friends, or people who knew me a certain way. I do not recommend it. Then user Not Tom Hanks replied with this under Spoon's comment. I lived like that for over a decade. I didn't find the motivation and conviction to change things until I was 35. I lost the weight, but the long-term effects on my body and my mental health will always be a work in progress. I'm happy now, and I'm grateful for that. I also do not recommend it. Edit, I know it's been a while since my comment, but if anyone is still reading this and you're living this now and want to get out, feel free to send me a private message. I'll tell you what I did, what worked, and what didn't work. I wish everyone could make the changes I've made. I'm not trying to sell anything, I'm just genuinely offering to share my story and maybe provide some inspiration for somebody. You can change your life. It's hard, but it's entirely worth it. User Bad Robot Monkey said the following in their comment: "Your 20s are about finding out who you are. Nothing is wasted. I used to think time playing video games was wasted, but when I quit for a while, I missed my friends and I missed my instant stress outlet. I used to think I wasted money, but I had a hell of a good time. I used to think I got a late start on my career from fumbling around, but I got a new career at 35 that owed in part to my varied background, and I've been progressing through it for over a decade. In short, none is wasted. Live every day like it is an opportunity." A now deleted user made the following comment under Robot Monkeys: "Yeah, I'm shocked at how many replies are slamming video games as a waste of time. I'm 23 and I start law school in a month. Played video games regularly from the time I was 8 to 9 years old all the way up to now. I made friends through it and played some games that have created lifelong memories. Did I play a little too many games here and there over the years when I was stressed out? Yup. All in all though, it's been a great escape and something to alleviate the boredom when you can't just go out and do something." User You Will Not Go to Space commented college: "I applied for tons of internships but never got my foot in the door anywhere. I had good grades, but there's always someone better. It seriously feels as if no human has ever seen any of my applications because I never heard anything back. It's as if I don't exist. I spent just about everything on the courses, textbooks, and software. I never got to use any of what I learned. Now, years later, nearly everything I learned is obsolete. Every job application remains unread. I have nothing to show for my hard work except a lot of pain." User Yinza Jagoff said, "I was in a long-term relationship from 23 to 28. Wasted some of the best years of my life." To this, user 1119 King said, "I had a 7-year relationship and a year a half ago when I was 25. Sometimes I'm tempted to think, what a waste of time, since the last several years were a slow decay that could have been avoided if she were honest about her feelings. But having gone through that, it's been my catalyst for personal growth and transformation. I certainly wouldn't be who I am today without experiencing that relationship. I know exactly how much value to put into relationships. I know exactly where my priorities and boundaries are when looking at potential new partners. I know what I want out of life now, and it's not what I had deluded myself into thinking during the long drag of that relationship. Without the pain of it all, I'm not sure I'd be the happy and confident person I am today. While it can hurt to look at my last relationship in hindsight, I don't think I would change anything. It's the painful experiences that give us the most perspective and potential for growth." User Lubricated commented the following: "I made what seemed to me at the time a big pile of money in my mid-20s. It wasn't a large amount of money at all, but it felt like it at the time. I just lived off it for a few years and played World of Warcraft full time. I have no regrets. I wish I could go back to that time in my life in some ways. However, I fully appreciate this probably wasn't the healthiest way to exist, but I was doing exactly what I wanted to at that time. Was it a waste? Most people would probably say so. I had a blast though, and really miss not being able to just know life games to my heart's content now. Life has changed. I'm a little bit further behind in my career compared to some others, and sometimes that feels a bit odd, but I was never going to be the guy to go to school, college, job, kids, and then die. It's just not me, and that's okay." User The Yellow King said, "Substances, sex, and working in places that didn't respect my time. Now I'm in my 30s, sober, with brain damage from the substance use, terrible depression and sleep disorder, no sex, and I just got fired from my job. Don't be like me." Under this comment, user Kanye Westicles 95 said, "I spent my high school years doing an obscene amount of ecstasy and smoking weed, and it definitely affected my brain function. Life is much more challenging, and I have to work twice as hard as my peers to achieve the same results. I often forget what I'm saying in the middle of my sentence. My short-term memory and working memory are absolute garbage. Anyone under 25, and especially teenagers who are reading this, should heed the warning. Experiment with substances in moderation only when your brain is done developing. Otherwise, you are causing permanent and long-term brain damage." User Aware Statement 205 said, kids and marriage. Had my first at 19, second at 21, married at 20. I get to enjoy my 40s without kids. I'm only 5 years away from my first being 18, but the 40s versus 20s is so different. Under this comment, user Clipsedra said, right. I don't regret kids at all, but I had them young with the mindset that I'd have more years to enjoy them and that I'd be free again in my 40s. Then I had a child who has a totally random rare genetic mutation, who has delays and health problems and will likely need to live with me forever. I wouldn't change anything, but if I was offered the option to insert 5 years before I had my kids, I'd take it. A user named Angry Rubber Duck said, I think a lot of people need to see this. Between 20 and 29, I did the following. I met a girl and married said girl, got the job I wanted my whole life, bought a house, got 3 cats and 2 dogs, had 2 kids, bought a new car and then a new truck, moved with my job and bought a bigger house, and specialized in the area I wanted to, went to the Arctic, traveled to parts of the world I wanted to, climbed some mountains, started learning a new language, made friends, lost friends, seen friends get married, and I still feel like I wasted my 20s. So don't have any regrets. The fact that you're alive at the age you are is awesome. Living life and experiencing joy is the point of life. Keep doing what you're doing. You're great. User Brother Sunset said, I started a retirement fund far too late. Your 20s are your best years for compound growth. I have now delayed my retirement for God knows how long because I didn't take my future seriously. Nobody is coming to save you. Social Security will likely be gone by the time you are of age and ready to collect, despite the fact you've paid into it your entire life. No one will care in 40 years if you are broke, penniless, and living on the street, and you will have no one to blame for it but yourself. Take 125 every week and put it to retirement. Get a job that has a program that matches, even a small amount is better than nothing. I blow 125 on the dumbest shit from Amazon on a weekly basis. It's not that much. You have it, I promise, and it will pay dividends. If you truly don't have 125, and I mean literally making ends meet without spending money on bullshit like food ordering, alcohol, etc. I'm sorry to hear it, but any amount you contribute is better than nothing. The expectation is that by age 30, you will have equal to your yearly salary in a retirement fund. 55% of Americans admit to being behind where they should be. The amount of Americans aged 75 and up who continue to work is expected to increase by 96% over the next decade. The earlier you start, the faster the forces of compound growth will help you. Maxing out your yearly contributions when starting at age 20 could potentially mean that you could be a millionaire by 65 in something like a well-managed Roth IRA. That's by contributing like $6,500 a year from your expendable income. I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm sure the random calculator I just used online could be wrong, but if you don't contribute anything, it will always be. Anything is better than nothing, and that's something everyone will agree on. A user named Anzai said, traveling. Instead of going on to uni or getting any skills, I just worked at retail jobs for a couple of years, then traveled for a year, rinse and repeat 3 or 4 times. People kept telling me I should plan ahead and that I couldn't just travel forever and I'd regret it one day. Then when I hit my 30s, I kept doing it. 1 2-year trip and another 1-year trip 5 years or so later, and you know what? Don't regret a single decision. I've seen over 60 countries and experienced so many amazing things and wouldn't trade any of it for a career or a family or any of that. I'm in my 40s now, going to Nepal in a couple of months, and in 2 or 3 years I'm heading off for another couple of years to hang around South America, most likely. So glad I didn't listen to people telling me I was wasting my life and that I'd have to grow up one day. A deleted user said, went to college and took out student loans. Now at 37, I'm still paying on them and likely will another 10 years. I should have gone to a trade school and learned to work for myself. I hate working for someone else. Also, I was too focused on having a girlfriend, and I didn't focus enough on myself like I should have been. User Zenchik said, substances, lots of them. I dated a dealer and got free stuff constantly. I was promiscuous, I partied, I spent all my money, I was clinically depressed and unmedicated, I got hooked on codeine, traveled a lot, and held down steady jobs throughout, no idea how. Somehow, in that time, I also found time to get married and divorced twice. I regret nothing, not even the codeine addiction, which lasted into my 30s. I have been clean for 5 years now, and it has had lasting effects. I have destroyed my receptors so that I can no longer process dopamine. There's some hope that this ability will regenerate, but no guarantee. However, every experience helped to make me into the person I am today. I am married to the love of my life, and even the addiction helped to make me into a more accepting, patient person, and doing potentially permanent damage to my brain reminds me every day of the harm that can come of going back down that road. At nearly 40, I can look back and know that I had a great time, and I have no desire to go back to a party lifestyle of drugs and casual sex. Been there, done that, got the tattoos. I am seriously boring now, an accountant, and I love it. User Upper Inevitable 242 said, honestly pursuing medicine. I am 32 now and I spend all of my adult life so far in college, medical school, or residency working crazy hours, and I've still yet to make more than $65K in a year. I've also already relocated 4 times and have likely at least 2 more coming. Not saying that's bad money necessarily, but that was also working 80 hours per week and driving 2 hours per day between time zones a lot of the time. I've still got the rest of this year and then 4 years in the military active duty before I make a real attending paycheck, so I'll be 37 before everything fully pans out. I don't dislike my life at all, but I probably would have chosen a different path had I had the opportunity to do it all again. A deleted user said, I'm currently only 28, but I feel like my entire 20s has just been spent coasting by not knowing what I want to do. Being brought up in a cult, Jehovah's Witnesses, really stunted my ambitions and goals while also plaguing me with constant anxiety and depression bouts that completely obliterated my ability to function. I never had any self-worth, and I would get the worst jobs imaginable and think I was destined to stay in the awful seaside town I grew up in for the rest of my life, as I believed I could do no better. It's only recently that I've spoken to a therapist, which has helped me realize my true potential and helped me get started on real-life goals. Currently completing an IT apprenticeship, and then once that is complete, I plan to move away overseas to Australia. The self-doubt is still there, hiding in the back of my mind, but it is a lot less prevalent now, and I can actually visualize success and happiness in the future. My 20s are almost over, but for the first time ever, I am looking forward to getting older.